Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. Frank Warren has made it very clear that he is sick to death of Martin Bakole and Billy Nelson. And this comes off the back of these rumours that, Moses Itauma could fight Bakole. Now, if you think back to the show in Scotland, headlined by Josh Taylor and Echo Esserman, great win for Esserman. But Moses Itauma was on that undercard. He was the chief support, I think. And Bakoli was there. And there was a quick interview after Itauma's victory with Francis Warren. And Billy Nelson and Bakoli were mentioned. And Francis Warren said, why do we want to even bother with those people? They're rude. They're just a fucking pain in the ass, and it was almost like he was saying, I'm tired of them. And the same vibe was given off by Frank Warren, Francis's dad, because this was a lengthy Box Nation interview, about half an hour, and he was saying, I think that the interviewer asked Frank Warren what did he think of the comments by Billy Nelson that Moses has a China chin, and Frank just rolled his eyes and was like, I suppose that was sparring stories, was it? And I can sort of sympathise in a sense with Francis and Frank Warren regarding this having to deal with people like this. And the way that Billy Nelson is talking, you would think Bakoli is like the great bogeyman killer of the heavyweight division. Now, I've never thought that to be the case. Even when he beat Jared Anderson, which, by the way, was his last victory. He's only won 1 in 3. I've never thought that Bakoli is this great unbeatable, machine that's going to mow through the heavyweight division, destroying all the prospects and getting rid of all the pretenders, and potentially could beat Usyk and all this stuff that was being talked about him. That's not to say he's a bad fighter. He isn't a bad fighter when he's in shape, when he's motivated. But you get a big fat paycheck and take it back to the Democratic Republic of Congo, the exchange rate is pretty impressive. You can build houses, which I believe Martin is doing. And let's put it this way, you can have a lot of haute cuisine as well, which he's evidently been munching on, the size he is. Look, he looked good against Anderson. In fact, he looked very good against Carlos Takam. And I know Takam didn't have a great deal left, but he was still a guy who could take your rounds. And Martin Bakoli smashed through him. Bakoli, in that fight, weighed, I think, half a pound off 300 pounds or something like that, a pound off 300 pounds. And he still got the job done against Takam in 4 rounds. Against Jared Anderson, he weighed 284, 285, something like that. So he'd lost a bit of weight, and we know how impressive he looked against Anderson, although Anderson, you could argue, was untested at that level. So, yes, when he's in shape, when he's got the right guy in front of him, Martin Bakoli is a big, tough unit who can fight a bit, no doubt about it. He's a threat. But then you post Anderson, what did he do? Well, he took the, I think, 24-hour notice fight against Parker, where he flew across from the Congo to Riyadh, looking like a beached whale, frankly, stuffed into that little plane seat. 310, 315 pounds he weighed. He got done in 2 rounds by Parker. Okay, I keep saying this, but he did shake Parker just before he got stopped. But we know that he's got heavy hands. It's just that if you're not in shape, you get clipped, you're going down. Okay? And that happened to Martin. Then, only a couple of months later, he had a chance to redeem himself, to say, well, I took the Joseph Parker fight at, 36 hours notice, whatever it was. I had to fly all that way. He didn't even have his own boxing gloves with him. He had to borrow some from Daniel Dubois. He walked to the ring. There was no pomp and circumstance. It was just, okay, I'm here. He weighed in, however many hours before the fight. He was probably jet lagged. He got clipped on top of the dome, and down he goes. And that's all she wrote. But he had a chance to say, but yeah, but that was all just what it was. You know, it was a calculated gamble that didn't come off. Because he went in with F.A. Ajagba. And this was over in Riyadh too. This was it on the undercard of that Canelo, like an awful Canelo fight. And he had a chance to smash through Ajagba, make a statement and say, I'm back. But he didn't. In fact, he only got a majority draw, and I think you can make a very strong case for him having lost that fight. But yet suddenly, Billy Nelson and Martin himself are waltzing around saying to everyone, you know, we're going to fight this guy. We could knock out this guy. We could beat this person. You know, we've got a great big fight coming up. And according to Frank Warren, Billy Nelson said, yeah, we'll face Itauma. It'll have to be in December because we've got something big coming up. And Frank was saying, well, good luck with that. But, you know, why do you seem to think that you deserve to fight my star? Which is a strange thing to say because Itauma's only had 12 fights, hasn't fought anyone. Dempsey McKean was fringe world level. But that's it, really. You would think, well, surely Itauma is the one who has to, if anyone has to, you know, earn the fight, it's Itauma earning the fight against the established Bakoli. But no, Frank Warren has a different view. He said, no. You know, Itauma is the star. He's the star of the future. If you want to fight him, you know, you have to show me something. You've only won one of your last 3 fights. You've been knocked out 2 fights ago. And in your last fight, you got a draw, which is disputed, which I thought you lost. So Frank seems to be, and Francis Warren as well, they seem to be pushing Bakoli to one side and saying, we're not interested. We're not interested. And I think it's now time for Martin Bakoli, if he's serious about his career, to get himself in shape. He says he's only 33. All right, we'll go with that. But I'm never quite sure whether these African lads, maybe they just look older. I'm not quite sure. Maybe he's a bit older. I don't know. We'll say 33. He's a 6'6" guy. He's a 280 guy naturally, 275 naturally. Get down to your proper weight where you're still going to be very big, but not flabby, not fat, and start proving yourself. Start knocking people out like you were showing against Takam and Jared Anderson. You know, and in fairness to Bakoli, you know, I mean, he went over to France. He was the first person to beat Tony Yoka. That was a good win. I thought he lost to Sergei Kuzman over 10. That was at Wembley. He's fought in Dubai. He's fought in Riyadh. He's fought in America. You know, he does travel. He's a road warrior. Again, this is not me saying that he's a bad fighter. He's not a bad fighter. But if you want to maximise your talent, you've got to live the life. And it don't seem to me like he's consistently living the life. Too much weight, you know. Dedicate yourself now. Do what Muhammad Ali said, which is suffer now and be great for the rest of your life. But we will see. We will see. So what do you think about Mr. Bakoli? Is your opinion the same as mine, or do you think I'm being hard on him, or what? You tell me. And in the meantime, if you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, spread the word about Joe Stunner Boxing. It's your channel as much as mine. You know it makes sense. Takes a second, costs you nothing. All right, ladies and gentlemen, hope you're enjoying your bank holiday weekend. Or nearly over now, isn't it? But if you're in the UK, of course. And I'll catch you later. Bye for now.